Hey, it's Paul from howtoplaybassdotcom. I have the next in my series of tutorials for beginners. This is kind of tied in with a course that I've prepared, a 30-lesson course which takes beginner, gives them basic left hand, basic right hand techniques, put them together, learn the fingerboard, and then applies that all through a series of progressively more complex and more difficult real-world bass lines. If that sounds like it's something that might be of interest to you, click on the link underneath this video and go and have a check out of the page which has got details of the course. There's links to some testimonials, some full syllabus as well, so you can see all the things that are covered. This is kind of, this series of lessons that are on YouTube are kind of a precursor to that course, and give you some easier songs that are based on various rhythmic units. This one is, of course, is Baby Love by the Supremes, and the rhythmic unit that we're dealing with here is the quarter note in the bass line. So you've got a four notes to the bar, that kind of feel. So let's go and look at the first verse of Baby Love, which is where the bass comes in. Just heard the pattern that we're going to use for verse 1 and verse 2. It's a 12-bar pattern. Mostly it's played in quarter notes. There's a couple of kind of swing eighth note skips to give it a bit more rhythm. As I say, essentially it's in quarter notes. First bar, we've got 3 C's and then a B natural. That's the 3rd and 2nd frets of the A string. Goes down to the 2nd bar, 4 B flats at the 1st fret of the A string. 3rd bar, 4 A's, open A string. 4th bar, D, and at the end we've got D to the open A string. D's at the 5th fret of the A string. And the 5th bar is just 4 D's in quarter notes, down to 4 C's in quarter notes. Then we're going to go up to F. We're going to play 3 quarter notes, and then F to D, pair of swing eighth notes. F to the 3rd fret of the D string, the open D string for D. We've got 4 more C's. And we've got F again. We're going to do the pattern of 3 quarter notes, and then an F and an open D string, back to C. And then we're now down to the 11th bar, and we've got the turnaround. We're going to play 2 F's at the 3rd fret of the D string, 2 E's at the 2nd fret of the D string, 2 D's, either the open string, open D string, or 5th fret of the A string, and then we're going to play G, 3rd fret of the E string, and A, and that sets us back up to repeat that verse. So I'm going to play through that verse without the backing track, just so you can hear it and just double check everything. That would take us to verse 2. We're going to use the same pattern for verse 2, and after verse 2 in the original there's a kind of like an interlude, same chord structure, but there's like a little saxophone. I wouldn't call it a solo, but there's a saxophone playing a break over the top. We've got a little variations, some variations in the pattern that we can use for that to give it a bit more interest. So that's the next section that we're going to look at. This is the interlude. Okay, the interlude. Just heard it being played with the band in a box track. Same chord progression and a lot of the lines are the same, but there are some subtle differences. Again, we'll go through it bar by bar. So the first bar we're going to play 2 C's, 3rd fret of the A string, then G, 3rd fret of the E string, back to C. Then we're going to go down and play 2 B flats at the 1st fret of the A string. Then we're going to play low F, 1st fret of the E string, open E string. Then we're going to play 4 A's, open A string. Then we're going to play this pattern we played in verse 1 and 2 on D. Go back to D and play D in quarter notes. That's bar 5. Bar 6, we're going to play 3 C's and then an E at the 2nd fret of the D string. Then we're going to go back to this pattern we played on the F chord before, 3 F's, and then F and an open D string. We're going to go back to C, 3 C's and an E, back to the F pattern, back to the C's, but this time we've got 3 quarter notes and then a C and an open D string, and then we've got the turnaround pattern. We've got 2 F's, 3rd fret of the D string, 2 E's at the 2nd fret of the D string, 2 D's, either open D string or 5th fret of the A string, and then G, B, 3rd fret of the E string, 2nd fret of the A string for G and B. That takes us to verse 3. Now verse 3 I'll cover very quickly in a moment. Essentially it's identical to verse 1, but there's a 2-bar tag where there's a key change. So we'll go and listen to that being played with the backing track, and I'll quickly just talk through that. You just heard verse 3 being played with the backing track, identical to verse 1 except for 2 things. We'll start from the turnaround, bar 11, so we'll go from 2 F's, 2 E's, we'd then play 2 D's, 2 G's, 3rd fret of the E string, and then you're going to hold this note, D flat, 4th fret of the A string, hold that for 2 bars. That's the new key center, everything moves up a semitone, and the rest of the song uses exactly the same chord form, but everything's shifted up a semitone. So we're going to start in D flat rather than in C. So that's the last section that we need to look at to get through the tune. So let's move on and look at the verse in D flat. Okay, you just heard the verse in D flat, verse 4, whatever you want to call it. This is the kind of pattern that the song just plays this 12-bar form now and just cycles and fades. Essentially, it's the same as, or very similar to what we played before, but with every note shifted up a semitone. We'll go through it bar by bar again. So it starts off on D flat, 4th fret of the A string. So we're going to play 3 of those, followed by a C at the 3rd fret. Then we're going to play 3 C flats, 2nd fret of the A string. Same note as B natural, it's called an enharmonic equivalent. In the key of D flat, we'd think of it as a C flat. So we're going to play 3 of those, again 2nd fret of the A string. Then we're going to play the open A string, followed by 3 B flats, 1st fret of the A string, and then we've got B flat, D as an 8th note. So then we're up to E flat, we're going to play 3 of those, and that pair of 8th notes is an E flat and a B flat, the 1st frets of the D and A strings respectively. And we're going to go back to E flat and play 3 of those, 1st fret of the D string, down to A flat, 4th fret of the E string, then to D flat, 2 of those, 4th fret of the A string, back to A flat and G natural, 4th and 3rd frets of the E string. Then we've got 4 G flats, 2nd fret of the E string, then we're up to D flat. We're playing 3 D flats in quarter notes, and then a D flat and an F, 3rd fret of the D string, of course, for F. Then we're up to the high G flat, which is the 4th fret of the D string. Play 4 of those, then 4 more D flats, and now we're into the turnaround. Starts off in G flat this time, so 2 of those at the 4th fret of the D string, 2 Fs, 3rd fret of the D string, 2 E flats, 1st fret of the E string, and then an A flat and a C, 4th and 3rd frets of the E and the A string, and then the pattern sets up again. And like I did with verse 1, I'm just going to play through that verse slowly and without the backing track. Just repeat that section, and then in the original it repeats and fades. Those are the sections you need to get through the tune. Hope you enjoy playing through that, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial in this series of tutorials for beginners.